But let me rephrase for you in Ibehe again. What's the next step for the FBI after the court warrant of arrest on Abba Kyari?
Yeah, so if I heard you, you're asking for my response to the Abba Kyari matter. My preliminary point is to say that the nature of allegation level against Abba Kyari is not new. What he has been accused of is not strange to me. The substance of the allegations borders on collusion, connivance with a wanted criminal, or as it were, an internet fraudster having now pleaded guilty. Why this is in focus now, or why this is being discussed at this level, is because of who is making the allegation. It is not because Abba Kyari has never, in the course of his police career, been accused of this kind of infraction before. There have been allegations against him in the past on the manner that he carried out his responsibility. He has been accused, and I said accused, allegedly, of arresting suspects, killing them, or forceful disappearance of suspects he had investigated, and dissipating their assets. These allegations are not new. In fact, an investigative media organization in Nigeria, Premium Times, did a wonderful expose of Abba Kyari, where they exposed how Abba Kyari, using his Inspector General of Police Intelligence Response Team, arrested some suspects in the southeast, took over their assets, and was even operating their bank accounts without a court order, without any due process. Again, the same Abba Kyari has also been implicated in litany of human rights violations, arrest of suspects, detention of suspects, and refusal to release them, to produce them, even when courts have given orders to that effect. So this is a man who basically was going about larger than life. Somebody who believed.
Yes, I like you emphasize in Ibehe, you emphasize these are allegations, and I want to also put it also. So, these are all allegations against him.
I agree with you. I'm just saying that is the point I am making, that this is not the first time that allegations have been made against Abba Kyari, but there has never been any attempt by the police authorities to investigate the allegations that have been made against him.
Or perhaps there were investigations and nothing was culpable was found. It's possible.
No, this is being investigated now because a foreign country is involved. Not only a foreign country, the almighty United States of America, and of course the dreaded FBI. That is why the government or the police authorities, appears to be giving some form of attention to the allegations against Abba Kyari. If the allegations against him were made by an institution in Nigeria, or a media house in Nigeria, or a person in Nigeria, I can assure you to have been this case. Nobody would have paid attention to it. So that shows you how weak, how corrupt, how compromised our institutions of state are. But again, do not forget, we are talking about a member of the police force, an institution that has been found to be among the worst in the world, that has been even been rated at the point as the worst police in the world. So the corruption that we are talking about should not be treated as some form of isolated incident. If you want to sanitize the police, you will find many Abba Kyaris in the force, from the highest echelon of the police to the
Okay.
rank and file.
We'll dwell
The
more.
police, as they have admitted, had a lot of problems.
In the course of our discourse, we'll look at police reforms. We'll put suggestions on the table on how we can reform the police to make it more responsive and responsible. Let's bring in Innocent Lagi. Thank you all so much for staying with us. Bench warrant of arrest has been issued. Many expect the next step to be an application for extradition by the U.S. authorities to the Nigerian government.
Thank you very much for having me. Now, if you can hear me clearly, an order of arrest has been made against him. The process of extradition has to be followed to the letter. But let's not forget that the indictment of Hushpuppi or whoever he is
Hushpuppi
was done while he was in Dubai, not in Nigeria. The offenses that are being alleged to have been committed are international offenses. Most of these accounts from the allegations of the FBI are in respect of citizens of America who are either within America or living outside America and against American institutions. Dubai did the right thing and extradited Hushpuppi or whoever back to America to face trial for the offenses he committed against citizens of that country and against international law. Anybody who is involved in this should be given the same treatment. Now, we can be playing double standards. For example, I mean, the Nigerian government and institutions, particularly the police, are celebrating the arrests of Kanu, for example. Then it would be hypocritical if similar allegations, I mean, I will say allegations because Kanu hasn't been found guilty, and Kari has also not yet been found guilty, but Kanu was brought into this country and everybody is trying to legitimize it. And I think if Dubai will hand over Hushpuppi, I do not think Nigeria shouldn't comply with the order or the process of extradition, considering, in all fairness, that the judicial system in the US is about 1,000% more fair, more just, more credible than the system we have in Nigeria. So I guess that's my point on the issue.
But there are some Nigerian laws that dictates that some processes be taken.
Yes, they do. I mean, internationally, all extradition treaties have procedures for implementation of them. I am involved with involving some Nigerian who is in Ghana, and we're using the Interpol trying to get that to be done. Now, that process will have to be taken because of international law. I mean, this Nigeria, US, Dubai are all international players in international law, and the issues of sovereignty comes in. So American law does not necessarily apply to Nigeria, except, of course, by virtue of all those extradition agreements that are signed by both countries and the rules of international law. So the process does exist. The matter will be taken to court. The court will order for the implementation of that warrant that is coming from the US in respect of the agreement we signed with the US in respect of such issues of extradition.
Perhaps the extradition treaty between Nigeria and US and the letters and the spirit will play a great role in this saga.
Sorry, you may have to repeat that again.
The extradition treaty, subsisting extradition treaty between Nigeria and US will play a role in all this.
Absolutely. That is the only document or instrument that will be relied on, other than other diplomatic pressures, other than diplomatic courtesies. But basically, it's an agreement that has to be relied on. But international cooperation also warrants that Nigeria acts in its own best interest, where Americans' best interest is threatened by a citizen of Nigeria. We had the case of the attempted bombing of a jet by a Nigerian citizen, and he's convicted and in prison, also in the United States. These cooperations are necessary because of international relations generally. If Nigeria does not cooperate, for example, Nigeria is pursuing stolen monies of the countries that are stashed in international banks. And what Nigeria requires is the cooperation of these countries to be able to repatriate the incomes or the monies of Nigeria back to the country. Where Nigeria fails in such cooperation, I think we are going to be the victims. We're a lesser powerful country, lesser technological developing country. We will rely on those corporations. If we are isolated internationally for supporting and shielding clearly criminal actions that affect American citizens, you can imagine what America will do when our interest in such respect is being threatened.
Okay, Inibehe, flowing from what he said, there is a treaty existing between Nigeria and U.S. extradition treaty. We have seen Nigerian citizens extradited to the U.S. We have seen money being repatriated to Nigeria, stolen money with the help of the U.S. All this may bear on the issue of Abba Kyari and his possible extradition.
Oh, certainly. Because this is both a legal matter and a diplomatic matter. On the legal front, the United States will have to make a formal extradition request, possibly to the Attorney General of the Federation. They will have to write officially to the Nigerian government to request that Abba Kyari be extradited to the US. And that will now be governed by the Extradition Act, which is the law in Nigeria. You must also know that under the Constitution, specifically under Section 41 of the Constitution, every citizen of Nigeria has the right to freedom of movement. And that provision goes further to say that nobody shall be forcefully exited from Nigeria against his will, except, of course, by an order of court. What that implies is that even when a Nigerian commits offense against a foreign country, that person must be taken to court to undergo what is known as the extradition hearing, where the basis for the extradition will be presented, the evidence would be adduced, and the person involved will also be afforded an opportunity to have legal representation and to also put up his defense against the order or the request for extradition. There is also the diplomatic aspects of this, where the two countries will have to discuss, look at areas of common interest, and in this case, Nigeria has little or no leverage over the United States. Nigeria depends a lot on, some form of assistance from the US. Nigeria depends a lot on assistance. Nigeria also depends on the US for military equipment. Many Nigerian politicians go to the US to seek medical attention, medical help. So the US can diplomatically mount and exert enormous pressure on the Nigerian government, especially now that there are still 6, aircraft that the US is supposed to sell to Nigeria. The US can also make that part of the negotiation for the Nigerian government to take the extradition request for Abba Kyari seriously. My personal opinion is that it should be subjected to the extradition process, to the extradition hearing in court, and I believe that it should be extradited. I do not have any reason to oppose its extradition to the United States. The only way that we can become a responsible country, the only way that the world, the international community will take us seriously is if we are seen to abide by the rule of law, if we are seen to respect international norms. When you have a police officer who, by the 69-page indictment that we have all seen from the FBI, is accused of conspiracy to commit internet fraud, it is accused or alleged to have conspired with a wanted international criminal, international fraudster. to facilitate the defrauding of an American citizens and American institutions by arresting Chibuzo on the request of a criminal in order to facilitate the commission of fraud against a citizen of the United States, because Chibuzo had threatened or was making efforts to act as a whistleblower to expose the fraud that himself and Hushpuppi were perpetuating against an American, and to stop that act of whistleblowing from materializing, to prevent Chibuzo from blowing his cover. Hushpuppi now procured and got Abba Kyari to get Chibuzo arrested, to get him detained, and is alleged to have been paid 8 million naira for that purpose. Abba Kyari, by the indictment, even took photograph of a suspect under his care and sent it to WhatsApp, by WhatsApp to Hushpuppi. No formal petition on the alleged threat to life was presented. No investigation was carried out before the arrest. There was no due process. The complainant was not known to him. The complainant did not make a statement to him. What was the basis for the arrest and investigation? So this is also an indictment on the police as an institution. You cannot have a country whose police...
Yes, so we will interrogate that, and like we said, we go into issues of police reforms. What Inibe said, there's a likelihood that even if Nigeria sits to an extradition request from expected extradition request from the US, there's a possibility that Abba Kyari may resort to the courts to enforce his rights to contest that possible extradition. After all, there are precedents to that. We saw how Buruji Kashamu, late politician, perhaps frustrated a possible extradition to US over drug-related issues using the Nigerian legal system.
Yeah, can I speak now?
Go ahead, go ahead.
No, we have to distinguish the case of Kashimu and that of Hushpuppi. Kashimu's case is necessarily not against individuals per se, it's against an institution and a clear law in the US. In this case, you have clear victims who have lost money and the evidence is very clear about it. And I said earlier, look, if Abba Kyari has really nothing to lose, the American process will clearly set him out. I mean, that is a process that we will all admit, even by his own standard, is also 1,000% better than the Nigerian system. I mean, I don't think the FBI will treat him anything close to what Nigerian police treat citizens of this country, even when they are innocent. Now, to want to drag the process becomes an issue of what the Nigerian government's accountability will be. And as both of us have said earlier, if there is an allegation by the FBI and there's clearly a defense, whichever one you will raise it, it should be a defense of the facts of whether you acted correctly or not correctly. Kashimu was not a public officer when he was accused of the offenses he did. He was a private person.
Was he not in the Senate then? Was he not a sitting senator when it came up?
No, he came back to Nigeria to contest the Senate election, running away from his offenses in the US.
And he won the Senate election.
He was not alleged to have committed that offense while he was a sitting senator.
Okay.
The difference is he was not alleged to have committed those offenses as a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, we have a deputy commissioner of police in the police in Nigeria, and there's no overstating the fact that it is the police. It's supposed to be a fighter of crime. Now, if the Nigerian police have acted in any way through any of his proxies or officers in the actualization of the fraud as it is being alleged right now, you must look at this from 2 points of view. If Nigeria declines to extradite or act or cooperate, it means it sanctioned what an officer of his own Nigerian police participated in doing. Abba Kyari did not make those arrests as an individual. And I'm happy my colleague on the other side had explained this. There was no formal petition. There was no formal investigation. The man was picked up, detained. His picture was snapped and sent to the person who had asked for his arrest. How many times do you get the police to do things like that? So I don't understand why we will sit here and try to justify these actions. I mean, if this person was arrested without a shred of evidence, for example, how different will we be treating Abba Kyari if his own request for his own extradition, not an arrest, a request for his extradition had been done based on facts presented before a court and an order of court? You can compare and contrast the two scenarios. And I think it is only fair for Nigeria, that is alleged to be fighting corruption, doubtfully so, that it is not in any way supporting or shielding an officer of the Nigerian police force, that is key, who is alleged to be involved in international fraud, using his office or using the Nigerian police power to enhance and enable such international frauds to take place. That is the allegation. Now, I don't see any judge who will look at it differently. I don't see how this can be dealt with technically. This is a clear fact. He is not being taken to Somalia, for example. He is not being taken to a country that does not understand or enforce fundamental rights. He is taken to a country that we can guarantee he will be treated better than even if he was arrested by the Nigerian EFCC.
Okay, you raised some issues earlier pertaining to police reforms. To lay the background to that, if you follow the processes the FBI had employed, investigations of Hushpuppi's dealings and criminality, his arrest in UAE with cooperation from the UAE police, his extradition, and of course the other investigations and court hearing. Now, let's bring in Abba Kyari to it. These were facts that were tabled before a court of law in US, and the court issued a warrant of arrest. Some may say we didn't see any parade of suspects, we didn't hear of investigations through sources leaking it to the media. It went through these due processes. Now, back to Nigeria police system. You earlier said there were similar reports, allegations against Abba Kyari, newspaper reports, investigative reports, and nothing. Perhaps you believe, but I added that perhaps also the police did something and didn't find any substance in them. But coming from outside is a different kettle of fish. How do you piece all this together? Police system and the way it operates outside the shores of the country?
In reality, the truth of the matter at that today is that in the real sense of it, we do not have a police properly so-called. What we have is an institution that pretends to be involved in policing. And my senior colleague is laughing, but he understands what I'm saying.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We know what we go through as lawyers every day having to deal with the police.
Absolutely.
From investigation of cases to prosecution by the police in court, that is where the police is the one prosecuting. If you are a complainant, even in grievous cases like rape, like murder, you would have to entirely fund the process. So part of the point here is that policemen in Nigeria are used to collecting money from complainants to carry out their statutory responsibility, not minding that doing so may be criminal. And that is why Abba Kyari is partly in this mess today, because if that custom is used to that culture of extortion. What the police does in this country is horrible. The way suspects are treated, go to police station and see the way criminal suspects are being treated. Go and look at how their condition is. The average police officer will tell you we don't even have the vehicle to effect arrest. And they will even arrest you before they investigate you. It's not supposed to be so. If you read the 69-page indictment, the deposition, You can see forensic policing. You can see detailed investigation. You can see a country that is civilized, a country that is interested in the rule of law, a country that pays attention to facts and details. But what do we have in our own country? It is always the fire brigade approach. An incident happens, the police goes to the area and they arrest people, they call it a raid. Can you imagine? Police carry out raids. They hear that robbery has taken place in a place, or that people are fighting in a locality. They swoop on the place, pick up everybody they can find. Murder is committed in a residence. The police invade that house, arrest every living thing they can lay their hands on, throw them in custody. Before you start defending yourself, you are made to write a statement. Even when you have established your innocence, which you are not even required under the law. Because the law is that it is for the prosecution to prove your guilt. As the Supreme Court said in COP and Ewere, it is not for a defendant to prove his innocence. But when dealing with the police, there is always a presumption of guilt. That you're already guilty, come and prove your innocence. That even when you have shown that you have not committed an offense, the police will tell you, go and bring money for bail. Let me give you an example. There is a case currently in Akwa Ibom that I'm trying to intervene on, that somebody briefed me about yesterday, where a person is said to have been found in possession of firearms. The boyfriend that owned the firearm is in custody. When the police went to effect the arrest, they arrested the girlfriend. Can two people own one firearm? How likely
of
is
course,
that?
the provisions of the
other lady has never been in custody for one week.
Provisions of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act forbids that. Arresting someone for another person's offense. I said, provisions of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act forbids it. That the security agencies cannot arrest another for an offense allegedly committed by another person.
You are talking about Administration of Criminal Justice Act. How about even the Police Act of 2020 that has also reinforced the provisions of the ACJ? These laws are being enforced in disobedience. How about the Anti-Torture Act of 2017 that has criminalized the torture of criminal suspects? Since that act was passed in 2019, this is the 4th year. No police officer in Nigeria has been tried on account of torture of suspects. None, not even one. That law has not been implemented. The SCJ says arrest by proxy is illegal, but spouses, relations of suspects are still being arrested daily. Payment for bail has been criminalized, has been outlawed in Nigeria. In every police station, it is designated that bail is free. But I can sit here as the lawyer, I can tell you that bail is not free in any police station in Nigeria. So these are just laws that have been put in place. There is no political will to implement them. In fact, under the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, every chief judge in every state is supposed to designate a magistrate to go around police stations to inspect suspects who are in custody and admit to bail those that are supposed to be admitted to bail. These things are not being implemented, and it is unfortunate. So you still have this primitive, this outdated, this uncivilized manner of policing, where the law is being disobeyed by those who are supposed to enforce it. So the Abba Kyari case should offer the police an opportunity for self-introspection, an opportunity for Nigeria as a country to begin to re-examine their mode of policing. Because what we have today is an embarrassment. What we have today is a failure. What we have today is indefensible. And the world is laughing at us. That you have a senior police officer at the head. Listen, Inspector General of Police, intelligence response team. What was the intelligence that Abba Kyari gathered before arresting Chibuzo? What intelligence did Abba Kyari carry out or obtain before acting as an accessory?
Well, the committee set up by both the Inspector General of Police and the Police Service Commission may unravel some of this, because it's possible that we are not privy to some of these issues, just to make that clarification. Innocent Lagi, Inibehe has indeed exposed the differences and perhaps big gap between police system in US and in Nigeria. Some will say you want to compare apple with oranges. There are two different worlds. One is the first world, the other a third world. But aren't there some low-hanging fruits that we can start with in terms of these reforms? Look at the issue he raised in Ibehe with the Administration of Criminal Justice Act. Magistrates, designated magistrates, visiting the detention centers of police stations to wade in and see how justice could be dispensed. And we are not seeing this as much. How do we begin to get hold of the low-hanging fruits in reforming the Nigerian, not just police system, but judicial administrative system?
Now, I tell you as a lawyer, and I tell you as a defense lawyer, that we missed the opportunity of reforming the police immediately after the NSAS crisis. And that was huge. That was an eye-opener. I mean, we had that opportunity to look at our police in the light that the public had expressed. They see it, and make a reform so that the police will then be active to the needs of policing that the population requires. The police in Nigeria, I will say this before I answer your question, the police in Nigeria actually acts as a vigilante for the people in power. You can say that again. I mean, I have been Attorney General, I have been a member of the Nasarawa State House of Assembly, and I know how police defy.
Okay, I was stressing an important point there, trying to relate his experiences in government, both in the House of Assembly and part of the executive in Nasarawa State to policing system in Nigeria. The agenda is to indeed contribute put recommendations and solutions on the table on how to reform the Nigeria police system. We hope to have Innocent Lagi, former Attorney General of Nasarawa State, back on. Do we have him back online? Okay, we don't have him back online. Let's quickly cross over to Inibehe Effiong. Perhaps an opportunity for you to really dwell more on police reforms. I talked of the longer hanging fruits. We know how the police system in United States is funded, and of course the little funding that we devote to our police system here. Perhaps that's the first step to begin with these reforms.
There is no effort. You know, Mr. Ladi said the police act as the vigilante. I think he's just, being very nice with his words. For me, the police act as a private militia to people in power. Nobody is interested in investing in the police. The average policeman, if you go to a police station and make a complaint, they will assign an IPO, an investigation police officer to you, to the case. Go and ask them. Are they even given the resources to visit crime scenes? In the cases that I have been involved in, where people's rights, where people have been violated, where offenses have been committed against my clients, and we had to call that the law firm to write to the police. I can tell you that the totality of the investigation, 90% in 100% of the occasion, were funded by my clients. Because if you don't fund it, forget about it. You can write to the IG. Nothing will come out of it. Nothing, absolutely nothing. So when they want to even effect arrest, they'll tell you they don't have vehicles. They have to hire vehicles. They'll tell you they don't have fuel, even when the vehicle is available. You have to pay through your nose. If they have the rights to a financial institution to obtain the statement of the suspect, you have to pay for it.
I think I'm back on.
Okay, yes, because of a shortage of time, let's allow you to quickly stress your point.
Yes, are you with me?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Now, what I was trying to explain is, look, we have an opportunity during the NSAS to mirror what the Nigerian police looked at. And it's overwhelming across the country and done in such an organized manner. Now, instead of the Nigerian government to take stock of the police What we have is a situation where the corruption of the police was reinforced. Police was given power to suppress and act and take back their positions, instead of allowing the public to welcome back the police. Now, when you did not do that, you will have to wait for international communities to mirror you from outside, as it is being done with the police and Abba Kyari as the head of a big, sensitive police department. Now, we won't go any far with this. It keeps coming around and going around. If anybody had told Abba Kyari he will be in the situation he is today, he will swear it won't happen because he thinks he's a high-ranking police officer. It happens with soldiers who are convicted. It happens to Obasanjo, who ended up in prison before he became president. It happens with governors who are in prison right now. It happens with governors who are called to account at the moment. Now, we have to deal with these issues. It is our country. And I will say what my colleague had said. I agree with him, and I can confirm that 110%. We do cases and we see these things. Now, it is worse because the judiciary becomes part of the enabler of police abuse of power. So a matter is hurriedly brought to court. A judge will remand a suspect without even looking at the facts, simply because the police has used a high-sounding title simply to get a remand. And for the Nigerian police, I can give you my example. I wasn't like Nigerian.
We may not have much time for that.
They had
Barrister Lagi, I'm afraid we may not have enough time for that. We're already out of time, but you've stressed a very important point, and I think it's one of the major takeaways today. We lost an opportunity to reform the police.
Thanks for checking out Symphony on YouTube. Please be sure to subscribe and like our videos for updates.